On today's edition of Winning Cures Everything, we have got Week 9 previews to talk about. That's right. We're going to talk about all the biggest things going on, the biggest storylines, the biggest games, etc. We're just going to hit it from a general football conversation idea, whatever. But we got that. We got midweek games we got to get to, the most unlikely wins from Week 8, and we're going to do the viewing guide, etc. So let's not waste time. Let's do this thing.
Can you believe it? It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to Winning Cures Everything.
Game day, baby. Wake up or get out.
Here's your host,
A confident young man, a superb athlete.
Gary Seegers.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything. I'm your host, Gary Seegers. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at GaryWCE. I'm on Twitter at Winning Cures. It is the October 23rd edition of the show, Monday. We got midweek games to talk about. That's right. Thank God for Conference USA. We have got our preview with most to gain, most to lose, the most likely underdog outright winners. We got G5 game of the week, most interesting story. We got all kind of stuff. We're going to talk about where game day is going for Week 10. I completely whiffed on it this past week. Completely whiffed. It's the first one I've missed. But we'll get there. We will get there. Lots to get to. Of course, our college football viewing guide and the most unlikely wins from week number 8. Don't forget, 3 Dog Thursday comes on this channel 2 p.m. Central Time every Thursday. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Thank you again for getting us to 10,000. We soared right through it. We're over 10,100 now. So we certainly appreciate that. I say we, that's me. But my wife is part of this team as well, so she thanks you as well. I got a cake last week. She was very excited for me. I've been working on this for a long time, so 10,000, big number, but we're not done yet. We are continuing growing. So the BetUS College Football Show, every Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a link in the description. Make sure that you are subscribed over there, that you like all those videos. You share it out, tell your friends. That's where you can find my official plays each week. Went 4-3 against the spread last week over on the BetUS show, and I feel good about this week's plays. So make sure that you check that out Tuesdays, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can become a member. You can be a super fan or whatever it is that you'd like to call it. Hop on in and knock that thing out. I think it's pretty cheap on this one. If you just want to, if you want to tell me thank you for projections or whatever else, that's fine too. You can do buymeacoffee.com/winningcures. That's an easy way to do it. I post up my projections early in the week so that you can have what my full season stats would show the score to be, based on the full season stats, whatever, for midweek games, etc. So that way you can have those over there. Got to be a supporter to be able to get those numbers, though. That's the way it goes. So buymeacoffee.com/winningcures. If you want my plays each week, all the ones beside, you get the ones on the BetUS show, but obviously we do that Tuesdays and Wednesdays. There are other plays I make throughout the week. You can get those on my Telegram. Follow me over there at GaryWCE. That's the easiest way to do that. Telegram. So I think you can go to your phone browser and do t.me/GaryWCE. That's the best way to get to it. So go ahead and check that bad boy out as well. What else have we got? I think that's it. Let's go on and dive into this stuff. All right. First thing on the board. The biggest brand games. Who is going to have the biggest TV ratings this week? And I think every time they play this game, I think it leads, and that's Georgia, Florida. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party in Jacksonville. It's going to be on CBS, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 Central, which is God's time zone. Georgia, Florida, always a big deal. And this year, there's actually stakes involved because Florida is 5-2. They've only got one SEC loss. Do people understand that Florida, if they win this game, as unlikely as that is, if they win this game, they lead in the SEC East? They haven't played Missouri. I'm a little surprised. Like, Missouri has one loss as well, but Florida would be tied for the lead in the SEC East, and that is mind-blowing. So I think this is going to be a pretty well-rated game. Now, at the same time, Oregon and Utah is going to be on Fox. Massive Pac-12 stakes in that one. Both teams have one Pac-12 loss already. They're trying to keep pace, so that one's huge. Ohio State at Wisconsin, that's two massive brands, So, yeah, I would imagine that they are probably going to do a pretty big number as well. Prime time, there's not a whole lot else going on in that time slot. Tennessee at Kentucky. I say nothing going on in that time slot, but Tennessee at Kentucky starts earlier on ESPN. That's at 6 p.m. Central Time. And, Tennessee, Kentucky, another one, massive stakes. Big-time stuff. Tennessee's already got 2 SEC losses. Same with Kentucky. I don't know that either team believes they're going to make it to Atlanta this year, but that's, it's a rivalry game, especially for Kentucky. It's in Lexington. Kentucky coming off of a bye. Tennessee has already played Texas A&M and Alabama in consecutive weeks. That's going to be rough. Oklahoma at Kansas on Fox. Bit of a look-ahead spot for Oklahoma. Bedlam coming up next week. Kansas coming off a bye. Can I interest you in some Jayhawk stock? I wouldn't. But either way, let's talk about the most interesting storylines to watch in week number 9. All right, so I brought it up. Florida could lead the SEC East. That's massive. That's a huge storyline to watch. What is Florida going to look like coming out of the bye? What is Georgia going to look like without Brock Bowers? Yeah, we got a lot of things to figure out here. Second storyline, what is Miami of Ohio going to be without Brett Gabbert? Had a fracture, going to be out for the rest of the season. Now you move on to Avion Smith. They got to go to Ohio this week. And don't get me wrong, it's not like Rourke has lit the world on fire since he came back from his injury, but Ohio's still a really good team. That defense looking a lot better. This might be for the MAC East. So, big game for me, with my Miami of Ohio future. But either way, Old Dominion and James Madison playing this weekend. Old Dominion is not as bad as you would think. They're really not. And James Madison is now ranked in the top 25, the AP top 25. Again, they got there last year, started off super hot, lost to Georgia Southern, fell out, never got back in. They're back up there again. Is this team really that good? And yeah, I think they are, but that doesn't mean they're not susceptible to a loss. I wouldn't imagine they are complacent this week, but that is something to watch. UNLV and Fresno. UNLV made it to a bowl game last week. They got bowl eligible last week with a last-second win. Now they go to Fresno. They're pretty big underdogs, more than a touchdown dog right now on the road. What's Fresno going to be? Is UNLV just content with getting to a bowl game? This could be a massive Mountain West game. Next topic. Next storyline. Does Penix bounce back against Stanford? He looked awful last week. And we talked about the fact that he didn't look great. He didn't look great at the end of that Oregon game, right? Look, I thought that he got banged up a little bit, but everybody said that he was fine. So I rolled with it. Make sure we're focused on this. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what Penix looks like because he was the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman, and last week threw 2 interceptions, didn't have an offensive touchdown, just not good, especially against Arizona State. Clemson at NC State. Both teams already 3 losses on the season. Man, I know that Clemson is a big favorite here, but going to Raleigh, and I know NC State has looked like garbage. I get it. But man, could you imagine if Clemson goes and loses another game before the Notre Dame game? It's just, it's brutal. They still got to play Notre Dame, North Carolina, and NC State. This is just brutal for Clemson right now. So I'm curious what that game is going to look like. Texas against BYU, potentially without Quinn Ewers, likely without Quinn Ewers. Is it going to be the Blake Murphy show? That's going to be an interesting storyline. I'm very curious about that one. And finally, the last storyline for this week, Duke at Louisville, 2 ACC upstarts. These 2 teams are not out of the running for an ACC title game appearance. Let's just see what happens. The most exciting games or the closest score games, we got a few of those. Oregon at Utah. I think that's going to be really, really tight. Something to watch there. We'll talk about it more on the BetUS show. Oklahoma, Kansas. Could be. I think you're going to see some really exciting plays. Potentially, Oklahoma could run away with that thing. They've just got significantly more talent. But Kansas, scheme them up. That's what you got. UNLV, Fresno could potentially be really exciting. Again, a lot of stakes on that game. Georgia, Florida. That could be exciting because I think there's a world where Georgia gets dragged down into the mud with Florida, because that's what Billy Napier would like to do. So, again, another stakes game. Tennessee at Kentucky, that could be really exciting because Tennessee is not good on the road. Like, they just haven't been. They looked good in the first half against Alabama, and all that goodwill was gone in the second half. Just gone. Wyoming and Boise, I think, could be really exciting. Do you realize Boise could have 5 losses before November? I mean, that is just not, things have not gone well with Boise State. Not at all. And then Oregon State, Arizona. Everybody on this Arizona hype train right now. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens there. The most to gain and the most to lose. So let's talk about it. Boise and Wyoming. Obviously, Boise got a lot to lose this weekend. Wyoming still in the running for, Mountain West title stuff, trying to get to the title game. Boise, they need that coaching staff really needs this one. They really need it. Mississippi State at Auburn. If Mississippi State wants to make a bowl game, they probably need this one. You still got Kentucky. You still got Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken, and you still got Ole Miss. And you do have FIU in there. But, you probably need to get this one because I don't know that you're going to go on the road and beat Kentucky. I don't know that you're going to beat Texas A&M. Probably need this one. Let's see. The most to gain, most to... Yeah, most to gain, most to lose. Tennessee or Kentucky. One of them is going to have 3 losses. Who's it going to be? Tennessee? Do they want 3 losses before Georgia? Obviously not. But Josh Heupel in that bunch, he got to get the road woes off his back. That's what he needs. Georgia and Florida, most to gain, most to lose. I mean, that goes without saying. Oregon, Utah, goes without saying. USC at Cal, most to gain, most to lose. USC in this one, yikes. And I know that the Utah game was close. I get that. But now you've got 2 losses. The team looks discombobulated. Things are a bit of a mess. For USC. Is Lincoln Riley really reaching out to NFL teams? Is he really putting out feelers? Does this team just, do they know that he's not going to be around for the long haul, so they just don't care? Very curious about what's going on in L.A. The most likely underdog outright upsets. New Mexico is a dog to Nevada. And I know they're on the road, and I know New Mexico has been bad, but New Mexico can score. I don't know that Nevada can score. Nevada's defense has been pretty good. But New Mexico, they're only a 1.5 dogs, so this is not crazy. Arkansas State at Louisiana Monroe. Arkansas State's a 2.5-point dog. Hey, they got that new quarterback in there. They are slinging it. They look good. Mississippi State at Auburn. Yeah, I think State could pull it off. I think they could. Absolutely. Kentucky against Tennessee. Again, scheduling spot. This is a big-time spot because Tennessee just got done with Texas A&M and Alabama, and now Kentucky's coming off a bye, and Kentucky gets them at home at night. Yeah, it's going to be rough. UNLV at Fresno. UNLV is more than a touchdown underdog. If UNLV decides to show up and play, yes, they could beat Fresno. They could. But if they don't, obviously Fresno has the offensive capabilities to just run them out of that stadium. So we'll see at Bulldog Stadium on Saturday night. And I put this one on here. My numbers don't necessarily say it, but North Texas against Memphis. That Memphis defense is rough. And this thing is more than a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. That's interesting because Chandler Rogers has got that offense rolling for North Texas. Their defense isn't anything to write home about, but in a game that could be that volatile where anybody could score from any point on the field, that's something to pay attention to. The G5 game of the week. Let's talk about that. UNLV at Fresno, I put as number 1. I think Mountain West game going to be fantastic. I'm excited about this one. Georgia State at Georgia Southern. This one's on Thursday night. Massive game in the Sun Belt. Somewhat of a rivalry game, becoming more of a rivalry game. I think this is going to be a fun game. Wyoming at Boise. Again, G5 game of the week. Wyoming got a lot to play for. Boise coaching staff trying not to get fired. I think that's basically it. And the last one, Air Force at Colorado State. Air Force is undefeated. They are 7-0. Colorado State had all the hype, all the stuff. They've still got an offense. Their defense has been okay. Let's see what happens here. Colorado State coming off of a loss. Air Force got a win against Navy last week. All right, let's do this one. Where is ESPN's College Game Day going for week number 10? For week 9, I whiffed. I don't know why I didn't think that Utah would be able to beat USC. I mean, that's just that I whiffed on that, and I knew it way after I recorded this. But yeah, I should have put that one on the list, and I sure didn't. But for week number 10, LSU and Alabama both have byes this week, and they both only have one SEC loss. They are both ranked in the top 20. Alabama's in the top 10. LSU should probably be in like the top 15, if we're being honest. But, yeah, that one's going to be massive in Tuscaloosa. I've got Missouri at Georgia, and I think this is probably the most likely one because they've already been to Tuscaloosa. If Georgia beats Florida, Missouri's coming off a bye. So Missouri only one loss on the season at home to LSU, last-minute fashion. Yeah, and Missouri's built to where they could actually beat Georgia. So that's something to pay attention to. Kansas State at Texas. Okay, maybe not as huge a game. Kansas State already got 2 losses. Texas has the 1 loss to Oklahoma. Might be without Quinn Ewers. We'll see. I put UCLA at Arizona on here as a potential spot. If Arizona wins again, if UCLA beats Colorado this week, that could be enticing because they have not been there in a very long time. But either way, it's tough for them to get out to these West Coast games, especially back-to-back weeks. James Madison at Georgia State. Okay. If James Madison beats Old Dominion, there we go. I blanked for a minute. If James Madison beats Old Dominion and Georgia State beats Georgia Southern, you have got an undefeated team against a 1-loss team in the Sun Belt. And while there's not a ton of stakes on it because James Madison can't win the Sun Belt this year for whatever goofy NCAA reason, that's still going to be a huge game. And that would be interesting for, I think for ESPN and College Game Day to go to Atlanta. You would have a really hyped-up Georgia State fan base. That could be a lot of fun. And then finally, and this one might just be for sentimental reasons, but there's also the fact that Oklahoma might be undefeated. Obviously, Oklahoma would have to beat Kansas. Oklahoma State would have to beat Cincinnati this week, but the last iteration of College Game Day, the last iteration of Bedlam as we know it, is going on in Week 10. It's in Stillwater. You know the tensions are going to be high. You know it's going to be insane. ESPN still would own the rights to both teams, or some of the rights to both teams, even after this. But this will be the last time that they play for quite some time. So, do they want to go to Bedlam just for the rivalry's sake of it? How big are the ratings for Bedlam each year? Is it one of those kind of rivalries that really moves the needle? Probably not. But, man, that's going to be a massive game. If Oklahoma State comes in there with only 2 losses and only one of them in the Big 12, yeah, that's a big spot. That's a big spot. So, I think they're probably going to go to Athens next week because they did not go to Jacksonville this week. But we shall see. It all depends on what happens with Georgia, Florida. If it's not Georgia, I would imagine they'll probably make a return trip to Tuscaloosa. We shall see. James Madison, Georgia State, still a really good idea. And then Bedlam, also a really good idea. So we'll see what they end up doing. All right. There's a ton of big games next week. Ton of big games this week. Massive games. And if you want a ticket into the game, you know they're going to be expensive, right? Especially these big-time games. You can save a little money by going to TicketSmarter. TicketSmarter.com or the TicketSmarter mobile app. Any of these massive games that you want to get into, LSU, Alabama next week, Missouri at Georgia next week, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State next week. All of those, it's going to be a pretty penny to be able to get in. And you can save money at TicketSmarter by using the promo codes WCE10, that's WCE10, and that'll take $10 off an order of $100 or more, or WCE20, and that's going to get you $20 off an order of $300 or more. Look, think smarter. TicketSmarter. Go to TicketSmarter.com, enter the promo code. It's not a one-time thing. It's not your first time and you save this money and then next time you got to pay full price or whatever. You can use that promo code as many times as you want to. So take advantage of it. WCE10 or WCE20. Think smarter. TicketSmarter. All right, the college football viewing guide for week number 9. And let's dive into it. Let's dive into this thing. We're going to start off. Press my button here. We're going to start off on Tuesday night. I am going to watch on my main screen Liberty at Western Kentucky. Okay? Now, y'all know that I appreciate New Mexico State. And that is who I will end up watching. I'll have them on a secondary screen. You guys see the screens behind me. I mean, look behind me here. I got, whatever, over there. I got 3 screens back there. So I'll be able to watch both games. But my main screen, Liberty at Liberty at Western Kentucky. Bless America. I'll get them straight here in a minute. On Wednesday, my main screen is going to be on Jacksonville State at FIU. UTEP at Sam Houston. I want to see if Sam Houston can get a win. UTEP is not good. They are just not good. But they have not fired the coach yet, so something to pay attention to. On Thursday, main screen going to be Georgia State and Georgia Southern. 6:30 p.m. ESPN 2. Syracuse, Virginia Tech. That's going to be a lot of fun, too. I will certainly have the intros from Lane Stadium turned on. And then after that, like once we get into the game, then I'm going to be paying attention to Georgia State and Georgia Southern. But yeah, Virginia Tech, Lane Stadium, Inter Sandman. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun on Thursday night. On Friday, we've only got one game, Florida Atlantic Charlotte, which sounds like it should be a Conference USA game, but this is an American Athletic Conference game. So ESPN 2 is where you can find that one. Now, we move to Saturday at noon. On my main screen, I'm going to have Oklahoma and Kansas on the main screen because I think that one has the potential for some fireworks. So I will take that one as my main game. One of my second screens is certainly going to have South Carolina and Texas A&M. I want to see what Texas A&M looks like after the bye week. What did they go in and fix? What did they do? Very, very interested in that one. South Carolina has looked dreadful. Can they get it turned around on the road in College Station? That's an interesting one. One of my other screens is either going to be West Virginia UCF or Houston, Kansas State. Very interested in those. We'll see. We'll see what game ends up being more interesting. So, moving on to the 2:30 slot, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Central, God's time zone. On Fox, Oregon at Utah is going to be my main screen. That's my main one. I want to see what happens in the Pac-12. Want to see what Bo Nix looks like at Rice-Eccles Stadium because he hadn't played there before. It might be wild. But he's been pretty good on the road here lately. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But that's going to be my main screen. One of my secondary screens, obviously the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Very interested in that one as well. And after that, I kind of want to see about BYU and Texas. Like Duke Louisville, I think could be interesting, but I'm probably going to toss that or maybe Mississippi State Auburn, something like that on an iPad or something like that. But I want to see BYU Texas. I want to see what the Malik Murphy show looks like. Because if Quinn Ewers comes back again next year, and you've got Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers, does Malik Murphy decide that he's going to transfer out? That's what I'm curious about. So I want to see what Texas looks like with him at the helm. We move to the Saturday evening time slot. And look, my main screen is going to have Tennessee at Kentucky. I want to see what Tennessee looks like on the road. I'm very, very curious about that. But then, I'm also going to have Ohio State, Wisconsin on a secondary screen. Yeah, that's what I'm That's what I'm interested in. So we'll see. That one could get out of hand. If it does, I'm just going to be swapping around all night because I want to watch some of Air Force and Colorado State. That one's going to be on CBS Sports Network. I do kind of want to see if Troy just completely disposes of Texas State. That one's on ESPN+. Does North Carolina have problems with Georgia Tech again? Because Georgia Tech beat them last year. Or does North Carolina decide to bounce back? James Madison is going to be on. Oklahoma State is hosting, Washington State. Oklahoma State is hosting Cincinnati. Yeah, there's a lot of games that I just want to get some eyes on. I just want to be able to see what's going on here. We'll see. And then finally, the late night slot. ESPN, Oregon State at Arizona. That's going on the main screen. Arizona got a lot of hype right now. Oregon State has been super efficient all year. They had the one misstep against Washington State. Very curious about that. And then, of course, there is the late night game, which I think you got to have Spectrum pay-per-view or something, or it might be the Mountain West Network. But San Jose State at Hawaii is going to be the late game. But my secondary screen for the 9:30 p.m. Central Time slot, Fresno and UNLV. Fresno, UNLV, I want to see what's going on there. All right. That is going to wrap up the viewing guide thus far. Let me go on and tell you, before we jump into previews. All right. We're headed to the most unlikely wins from college football's Week 8. And I got some surprising ones here for you. We're going to start off with a super surprising one. Oklahoma beat UCF 31-29. And, yeah, they only had a 35.5% post-game win expectancy. The numbers were not kind to Oklahoma. They found a way to survive it. But, man, they did not look good against the Knights. So, Baylor, 8.6% post-game win expectancy against Cincinnati, 32-29. Baylor ended up winning that game. Florida International, midweek last week, 22.7% post-game win expectancy and a 33-27 overtime win over Sam Houston. Northern Illinois, 46.12% post-game win expectancy over Eastern Michigan. They won 20-13. Wisconsin beat Illinois. If you watch the reaction show, you understand how fired up I was about that. But Wisconsin, a 34.8% post-game win expectancy and a 25-21 win over the Illini. Nevada, 31.3% post-game win expectancy in a 6-0 game or win against San Diego State. They charged people to come in and watch that ball game. I mean, that's just abysmal. BYU got a big win over Texas Tech, 27-14. 26.8% post-game win expectancy. They are just not efficient on offense whatsoever. Man, they can hit some big plays, and they can take the ball away from you, and they can make you do stupid stuff in Provo. So, interesting things to pay attention to when you look into some of these teams, whether you're wanting to bet them the next week or not, right? Let's move ahead. Let's talk about the midweek games. We'll go ahead and clear this off the screen, but let's talk. Yeah, I know you guys love these. We're only going to spend a couple minutes on each. But let's start with this. The midweek games. Tuesday night. Write my time down. New Mexico State heads to Louisiana Tech Tuesday night, 6 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. And let's see. New Mexico State is a 3-point dog as we speak. That ain't good. No, they are a 2-point dog. Okay. So, interesting number, obviously. My stats have New Mexico State favored by 3.63 over the full season. So, my power rating has New Mexico State by 2.5. Why Louisiana Tech is favored, I'm going to guess it's just home field. Just a guess. I mean, New Mexico State did just come off of a rivalry game. I don't know how much that necessarily matters because they didn't have to get up like emotionally a ton for that game. They ended up kind of walking away with that pretty easy against UTEP last week. New Mexico State, super explosive, and they don't give up a bunch of explosive plays. Louisiana Tech gives up a bunch of explosives, and they are explosive, number 41 in offensive explosiveness, but, you know, it is what it is. So that is the full season stats. Now, let's pull up this, and let's look at the last 4 weeks. I got New Mexico State by close to a touchdown here. And part of that, again, has to do with the offensive and, the net explosiveness, right? And New Mexico State, number 27 in net explosives, and Louisiana Tech is number 94. So that is something to pay attention to. Both of these teams, like, interesting, right? The biggest part of this is Louisiana Tech has got, a defense, at least somewhat of a defense. Pretty good against the pass. Their issue there is, I think New Mexico State is really good running the ball as well over the last 4 weeks. Rushing explosiveness, yeah, that's an issue for Louisiana Tech, number 116 in that spot. The 5 factors, those all point to New Mexico State winning this game. New Mexico State can get an early lead in this spot because they are number 33 in first half point margin. Louisiana Tech is number 122. And then at that point, like, how much does New Mexico State turn it on? Do they have the killer instinct? All that kind of stuff. Number 12 in net points per drive at number 62 for Louisiana Tech. Just looking at overall efficiency, New Mexico State is number 14 in PPA margin. Louisiana Tech, number 71. So I will take New Mexico State to win this game outright. I like them quite a bit here. Liked it better at 3, obviously, because anytime you go on the road, it's a little crazy, especially in the middle of the week. But I'll take New Mexico State in this one for sure. Now, as we move along, we stay on Tuesday night, and let's see. Oh, this is interesting. I might have to look at this thing. Liberty goes to Western Kentucky, and Liberty is a 5-point road favorite here. A little surprised by that. Little bit surprised by that. But regardless, we're going to look at the numbers. Full season, I've got Liberty favored by 3.27. As you see, the spread when it was created had Liberty -4. Okay. I am not sure what to make of that. This thing's going the opposite direction of the way that I thought it would. But honestly, when you look at overall season numbers, like Liberty, number 13 PPA margin, Western Kentucky's number 68. That Western Kentucky defense is brutal, and Western Kentucky's offense is not exactly super efficient, right? They are number 10 in passing explosiveness, but they're number 106 in passing success rate. They are number 43 in rushing explosiveness, but they're number 116 in rushing success rate. They're just overall offensive numbers. Western Kentucky has not been great this year, even with Austin Reed back at quarterback. Liberty's offense has been absolutely kicking, and I think Liberty is going to be fired up here because, this is for the conference, basically. Like, this is the spot. This is what you got to do, and it is what it is. I'm not thrilled because I do like Liberty quite a bit, but we'll see. We'll see about that. Let's move over to the last 4 weeks. I got Liberty by a point, and you see how much that's changed. Western Kentucky, since they started playing in against different competition, they are now number 39 PPA margin. It turns out when you start playing Conference USA competition, yeah, your numbers get better, especially when you've been playing like Ohio State and whatnot. So Western Kentucky did not look great against Jacksonville State last week. I got that, but that was a bit of a look-ahead spot. Neither of these teams covered last week. So I look at this. The passing success rate is still not good, but they're even more explosive than you thought. The rushing success rate, terrible, but they are still 58 in rushing explosiveness. The issue is the defense has gotten better for Western Kentucky. These are two teams that, you look at plays per game. Like Liberty number 60 in plays per game. Western Kentucky is number 10. Net points per drive. Liberty number 33. Western Kentucky number 40. You look at how explosive this Western Kentucky team is. Number 5 in net explosiveness. Liberty is number 81. Liberty will efficient you to death. I think going on the road here might be a little too big of an ask for Liberty. I'm going to take Western Kentucky at home to cover the 5. I know that number is in no man's land, but I don't see it. They're at home. They're going to be fired up for this one. This is a newcomer into the conference. Yeah, give me Big Red here. I mean, the helmets too. I mean, good gracious. We got big-time stuff going on here. All right, we move to Wednesday night. And Wednesday, got the times down. Wednesday night, we see Jacksonville State head to Florida International. And Jacksonville State is an 8-point favorite, total of 44.5 currently. Let's pull this thing up on the screen. Full season, I've got Jacksonville State by 3.16 points. Florida International, very interesting, right? They got the win last week. They find ways to win games that make no sense. You look at their overall numbers, I mean, offensively, it is atrocious, but they find ways to get it done. Defensively, a little bit better, certainly better than they were last year, and Mike McIntyre is their coach. I mean, he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. He was at Memphis. He was at Ole Miss before that. You know, he was the head coach of Colorado. Like, this guy has jumped around, and obviously he knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing with that much talent down in Miami. On the other side, Jacksonville State, massive, massive win last week over Western Kentucky. That is, I mean, their defensive numbers are fantastic. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. But let's take a look at the last 4 weeks. And my numbers have Jacksonville State by 3.9. So FIU is at home, and they are an 8-point dog. Yeah, I'm going to go with the weeknight home dog again. There's no number here that makes any sense for FIU to be able to stay in this ballgame. I mean, maybe rushing explosiveness. Maybe they can rip off a couple of explosive runs because they're number 7 in rushing explosiveness. Jacksonville State is number 76 here. But Jacksonville State is not explosive. There's a lot of reasons why you would take Jacksonville State here, and that's exactly why I'm going to take FIU to keep it within 8 points. I mean, it's too many points here because FIU, I think in this spot, they're going to be fired up, I would imagine. Big win last week. The last time they were at home, they got embarrassed by UTEP. Yeah, I'll take FIU in this spot. Let's see. We will stay on Wednesday night, and let's write our times down. UTEP. Yes, those same Miners. They head to Sam Houston, and currently Sam Houston, a 3.5-point favorite with a total of 36.5 on this one. Whew. Interesting. Very interesting. Look, 7 p.m. ESPN 2 on this game. Let's pull it up on the screen so you can get an idea. These are full season stats on this one. I've got UTEP favored by 0.33 points. Sam Houston, I mean, their strength of record is number 133. They are awful on offense. Number 127 right there. You see the dark red. The dark red is not good. Green is good. Red is bad, at least on my chart. So you guys know how that works. UTEP, not a ton of plays. Number 112 in plays per game. Sam Houston is number 66, but they're number 96 in offensive plays, number 95 in defensive plays allowed. So take that for what it's worth. Net points per drive, both of these teams, I mean, number 118 for UTEP, number 120 for Sam Houston. Sam Houston favored by more than a field goal here. And a lot of that has to do with their defense, right? Number 58 PPA per pass, number 71 PPA per rush. And that UTEP offense is pretty bad. The UTEP defense, okay, like number 37 pass success rate allowed, but, I mean, Sam Houston can't throw the ball. They're number 129 in passing success rate. So, just not great. When you look at the 5 factors plus talent, Sam Houston actually has a bit of an advantage there. So that's something to pay attention to, which you can't see that. I'll put it right there. The 5 factors plus talent ranking, UTEP just drops off massive. So let's look at, this one's going to be tough. Let's look at the last 4 weeks, and I've got UTEP by 1.38 here. And UTEP's technically worse when it comes to PPA margin, but, you look at the overall numbers, net points per drive, offensive explosiveness, UTEP is number 29 there. I think that's where we're getting this. Points per game, yeah, their points per game is not good. points per play is not good? Is it plays per game? Is it, Sometimes this model spits out stuff that makes no sense to me. Absolutely no sense. So it expects UTEP to win the game outright over the last 4 weeks. I can't figure that out. I can't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to take Sam Houston at home to finally get a win, and I think they're going to cover the game because I don't think I don't think that UTEP is very good. So, yeah, I'll ride with Sam Houston to get their first win of the season, to finally get off the schneid and, get a nice win. That's I think everybody wants to be able to win a game. And, you're laying 3.5. Is that number ideal? No. I'd much rather have 3 or 2.5. But here we are. So that's the direction I'm going to go with this one. Yeah, very interesting. All right, give me Sam Houston minus 3.5 there. Last 2 games for the week. Let's go ahead and knock this out. Write the times down. Syracuse heads to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a 2.5-point favorite on Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. And let's see what the numbers say. If you look at the full season, it would have Syracuse favored by 3 points. And I get that. Number 12 strength of schedule, number 69 PPA margin. Their defense has actually been really good, number 57 PPA per drive. There's reasons, right? Number 23 in points per scoring opportunity over the full season. Like Virginia Tech started out awful. Didn't look good. Couldn't run the ball early. And then, of course, you look at the offense. Virginia Tech's defense, really good against the pass. The issue is that, Syracuse doesn't really throw the ball a lot. Syracuse runs it a lot, and Virginia Tech has not been good at defending it. Number 119 rushing explosiveness allowed, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, when you go over the last 4 weeks, and don't get me wrong, Syracuse has had a tough stretch of games. But let's pay attention. See how much this flips. Full season stats like Syracuse by 3 in this game. Last 4 weeks, likes Virginia Tech by more than 2 touchdowns. And again, Syracuse played Clemson. They played Florida State. They played North Carolina. And they got absolutely housed in all of them. Syracuse is coming off of a bye week, but so is Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has gotten better, not so much running the ball. They are better at running the ball overall, but Syracuse has completely tanked. Completely tanked. Number 128 in points per play margin over the last 4 weeks. That number 133 on offense. They can't get up points for nothing, and a lot of that has to do with injuries and everything else, right? Virginia Tech's defense over the last 4 weeks, number 32 PPA per pass, number 42 PPA per rush. They're number 25 in average field position, number 3 in scoring opportunities allowed per game. They're number 38 in points per scoring opportunity per game. Yeah, this team, Virginia Tech is number 73 in first half point margin at minus 1.5. They're number 54 in second half point margin at 1.1. So they make adjustments. And that's always good. That's always good. Defensive success rate allowed, they're number 25. Syracuse, this thing has fallen apart. Absolutely fallen apart. I am going to ride with Virginia Tech. Now, I do not know why the number has dropped. But I do know that I will be betting it. So that's my plan right now. Is I'm going to bet Virginia Tech minus 2.5. I'll probably talk about that one on the BetUS College Football Show. So Virginia Tech minus 2.5 on Thursday night. Good gracious, I will get these straight one day. Moving along. Times down. Georgia State heads to Statesboro to take on Georgia Southern on Thursday, 6:30 p.m. ESPN2. And Georgia State currently is a 1.5-point underdog on the road here. The total sits at 62, so expecting quite a few points. Let's pull up the stats. These are full season stats on this one. My power rating has Georgia Southern minus 0.3, so favored by 0.3, or I guess 0.4 points. if you round up there. Yeah, okay, interesting. Very interesting. Georgia State's defense, not great against the pass. Number 83 in passing success rate allowed. Number 89 PPA per pass. Georgia Southern, number 69 PPA per pass. They're number 37 in passing success rate, so they can be pretty efficient with that. Georgia State, good against the run on defense. Number 48 PPA per rush. Well, Georgia Southern's offense on the season is number 6. They are really good at it. The issue for them, for whatever reason, they do not run it a lot. About 34% of the time. They're number 131 in rush rate this year. But they're number 8 in rushing success rate. Why you wouldn't do this more often, I don't know. But either way, that's what they do. That's what they do. Georgia State, on the other hand, they like to run the ball. They're not great at it. They're not super efficient, but they are number 8 in rushing explosiveness against Georgia Southern, number 127 rushing explosiveness allowed. Now, this is the full season stats. So, what do you say? We pull up and we look at the last 4 weeks. Good God almighty. Excuse me. I just sneezed like I'm... Okay, I'm not going to take it out. We're going to keep it in. We're going to keep it in. I appreciate you guys. Okay, so my last 4 weeks would have Georgia State by 1.45. And again, you look at these numbers, they are still number 131 in rush rate is Georgia Southern, and yet they are still number 42 in rushing success rate, number 16 PPA per rush. Why they don't rush more, I do not know. They want to throw it with Davis Brin, I get it. But they're not as good throwing the ball. So, something to pay attention to. Over when Georgia State has the ball, Georgia State, number 22 PPA per rush, number 31 rushing success rate over the last 4 weeks. They're number 37 in rushing explosiveness against the number 131 rushing explosiveness allowed defense from Georgia Southern. Georgia State is fantastic at running the ball, especially in this conference. They're number 5 in stuff rate allowed. They're number 50 in offensive line yards. Like, they are really, really good at this. These two teams are pretty even. They're both really good in the first half. They're both kind of not great in the second half. 5 factors would have Georgia Southern favored by a bit. Georgia Southern, if you include talent, it's got Georgia Southern number 46 and Georgia State number 54. However, there are things that point to Georgia State for me, like the fact that Georgia State is number 26 in giveaways per game. They do not turn the ball over. Georgia Southern is number 129 in giveaways per game. So they can't hold on to the ball. Georgia Southern being number 133 in overall defensive explosiveness allowed, that's terrifying to me. Yes, give me Georgia State. Give me Georgia State here to cover the 1.5. I think they win the game outright on the road. Even with James Madison coming up next weekend, I think that they get this one done because they're just stronger in the trenches, I think. And I know Statesboro's been crazy, right? They are really amped up for this season, but it is what it is. Let's recap right quick. Let's go ahead and talk about what we just went through. I am taking New Mexico State +2, Western Kentucky +5, FIU +8, Sam Houston -3.5, Virginia Tech -2.5, and Georgia State +1.5. That is going to wrap it up. Today's show went longer than it was supposed to, and my wife is going to be upset with me. So it is time for me to leave because I got to go get my son in just a bit. I appreciate you guys for being here. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. I would certainly appreciate that. Share the show out. Tell your friends. Let everybody know this is where you can come and hang out if you want to talk college football right here and the BetUS College Football Show. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we go through a bunch of games. So make sure you're subscribed over there. 3 Dog Thursday is here on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time with Mr. TJ Reeves. BuyMeACoffee.com/winningcures. I'm on Telegram @GaryWCE. I am on Twitter @WinningCures. I am on Instagram and TikTok @GaryWCE. That should wrap it up. All right. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. God bless college football, and hopefully, all of you tickets cash this week. Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter @GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question You can email me, Gary at winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.